All right, we're live. What is up, everybody? Got people in the chat already. Shout out to Ish, T, Sands of Time, Sam, Mabel, Anis. What's up, guys? Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you here. Definitely got some things to talk about. The U.S. The Fed meeting minutes actually had some really interesting thoughts come out of it yesterday. We actually had the Fed talking for the first time about the idea of tapering, which was a really big deal. So we might have to cover some U.S. dollar pairs today. Let me see if I can get all centered up here on the stream. What's up, everybody? Thank you very much for being here. I like to give people just a minute to tune in, get all settled, and then we will jump into some analysis. But yeah, I was looking at some of the U.S. dollar pairs this morning just to see what's going on. And let's also look at Bitcoin because I want to see sort of an update here. You can see on Bitcoin, we really found what seems to be a bottom for now. So this is the crypto market. I know most of you guys are Forex traders, but just because crypto's been moving so much, I just wanted to have a look at it this morning. Here's the 1 hour view. You can see we literally came down to this $30,000 mark and bounced right off of it very, very sharply. Kind of a big deal. You know, you have to think, like, if you were to, of course, it's impossible to always get the bottom or anything like that. But just for fun, if you were to have bought the low here, look at this increase in price. You'd be up 40% roughly, right? 40% up in like just a matter of hours, which is absolutely crazy. The crypto market is incredibly volatile, you know, in terms of how much it moves per day. It is just wild. Like if we look at this ATR here, look at this. So every hour right now, Bitcoin is moving around $2,000 in price. That is insane. That's such a big move. Per hour. And if we look at it per day, let's look at it daily right now. So daily right now, the Bitcoin market is moving, what is that? Almost $5,000 in price per day right now. That is insane, right? Even it was back here, like when we were moving, like this was pretty volatile. That was still, you know, $3,000 per day, but it spiked recently with all this volatility. And so if you like trading volatility, man, that is, probably one of the more volatile markets out there right now. I would also like to just take a look at Tesla. Tesla here down at 550 yesterday. It tagged just below 550 before what seems to be a bottom towards the end of the day. We'll see if that one can bounce off of that. But again, Bitcoin and Tesla, all the Elon Musk related stuff seem to be getting hurt. What about the old Doge USD? I know Frank will appreciate this. We'll take a look at Dogecoin for a moment. Look at that Dogecoin really finding what seems to be a bottom. It's even kind of a meme just to even analyze this sort of chart because it's so wild and volatile. But just for fun, we'll take a look at it. You can see it did find a bounce here at 25 cents and almost up to 43 cents now. Just an insane movement this is. And if we actually look, it doesn't sound like much, but you know, Dogecoin on the ATR moving almost 12 cents a day, which is huge because percentage wise, that's a massive move every single day. So yeah, thought that was interesting. Just wanted to look at some of the creative, fun markets for a moment before getting into some of our Forex stuff that we do each day. So let's head over to the website. Shout out to everybody in the chat with me live. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you guys and all the great comments, questions, and support that we've been receiving lately. It's been amazing. We've got so many positive comments on the channel and just really does mean a lot. Makes it really easy to do what we do here at A1 Trading. So we're going to get into some markets. Doge, Frank says, great Doge analysis, Nick. Thank you very much, Frank. Frank's in the other room. Probably going to be doing some writing for you guys. Speaking of his writing, here it is up on the website. Anytime you guys want, you can head over to a1trading.com and you can check out some of the free article updates and stuff that we are putting out. Between our writers, we have a couple different people who are sharing stuff. You can see just all sorts of stuff covering what's going on gold, the S&P, you know, of course, some of the Bitcoin movements recently, Aussie Unemployment. This is actually probably an interesting read for sure, because I think we had some AUD numbers, right? In fact, let's pull up Forex Factory and see where we're at with the latest news. So on Wednesday, I believe we had AUD unemployment. So let's see if we can pull up the weekly view here. So yeah, we had unemployment numbers come out for Australia last night for me, morning time for those over in the Asian time sessions. So if we look at this, you can see that unemployment rate was better than expected. We had 5.5 compared to a 5.6% for the Australian economy, which is better than expected. That's always good for the currency. And then in terms of employment change, we actually had minus 30. So that's kind of interesting. It was kind of mixed, right? So you had negative news on the employment change, but also the overall unemployment rate going down. That is really interesting. I'm wondering how that works. How do you lose jobs, but unemployment drops as well? That's going to be a one to figure out. You guys let me know when you figure that one out. That is confusing to me. But in terms of unemployment, it seems like Australia did okay. It also would make sense reflected in the price because we do see, the AUD pairs moving higher right now. Maybe we'll take a look at that, but let's look really quick at the currency heat map. You already know we do this almost every day when we look at the charts. So we'll head over to the currency heat map on the website and look at Australia this morning, you guys. Australia coming in hot, which is awesome because I'm currently long on AUD JPY. Things are working out nice. Sent out that alert yesterday, and things seem to be doing well. So we're up right now quite well on the AUD pairs. So you can see this one being the winner of the day for sure. The most green there on the chart. And then I guess your biggest loser seems to be the US dollar. And everything else seems to be relatively flat. You got some bullishness on the CAD, some bullishness on the New Zealand, but mostly really just seems like the Australian dollar is the one moving for today. So we'll take a look at some Aussie pairs today. How does that sound? Does anybody want to look at some Aussie pairs? Comment your favorite Aussie pair in the chat, and I'll try and look at a couple of them today just because they're the ones moving. I like to look at whatever's moving just because it generally speaking, I like markets that are moving. There's more opportunities when the market is in fact moving. So kind of an interesting approach. Actually, also really interesting is that I was long on Aussie Swiss. I got stopped out of Aussie Swiss and I picked up Aussie Yen instead. And this is kind of cool because the yen is performing weaker today than the Swiss franc. You can see if we were to compare the two, the Swiss franc is doing pretty decently today compared to the yen, which is sort of negative, especially against our Aussie. So if we were to look at that, I'm glad that I picked up Aussie Yen instead of Aussie Swiss. Seems to be doing better, in terms of my position here. So long on Aussie Yen, which is right here. So that's going pretty well so far. We'll see if that can continue. Ideally, it would. Let's see what everybody has to say. So we had some recommendations. We had Aussie New Zealand. We had Aussie dollar, pound Aussie, Aussie Swiss, Aussie Cad, Aussie Yen. Okay, cool. That's a couple good ones to look at. So let's jump over to the charts and we will jump into some of those. So let's start with the standard Aussie dollar. So the US dollar, sort of an interesting one right now, because yesterday we had some interesting news out of the Fed. They're talking about the idea of tapering. Now, if you don't know what tapering is, essentially whenever the Fed prints money, they actually go buy bonds. They buy treasury notes for 10 years, 20 years, and that is an effort to stimulate the economy and to get things rolling. And when they feel that it is doing okay, they will start the process of what is called tapering, which is essentially letting those bonds mature and not buying so much of it, which also happens to be a lot of money printing, right? To pay for those things, they print money. And that is why you always see that meme about the printing press with Jay Powell, right? So it's one of those things, when they talk about tapering, seriously, it's like if they're very serious about, okay, yeah, we're going to take steps, then that is very bullish for a currency. Usually we saw it in the Bank of Canada. We saw it in the Bank of England, right? We've seen different places say that, they're already in the process of tapering. The US has sort of been lagging in that department, at least. Now we see They haven't really like majorly started it yet, or at least from what we know, but they're talking about it. Now, it's a little bit tough because the employment numbers in the US have been a little bit rough. The inflation is spiking right now, but there is this argument that this inflation spike is temporary and it's not going to be a major problem. But that is really what we're talking about. We're talking fundamentally about the US dollar right now. In terms of the Australian dollar, with unemployment looking better in the recent news, and for me, the overall just bullishness on the Aussie. We've had a nice trend to the upside for the past year or so. And their economy, as we have talked about many times, is very positively impacted by a rebounding world economy, because their economy is based a lot in trade, in natural materials. And so when things are bustling and hustling, the Aussie tends to do all right. So with that said, I have a general bias to the upside on the Australian dollar. Nice little bounce off of this low. I'm not trading Aussie dollar, I'm trading Aussie yen right now, but still nice little bounce off of the low point here. Found support multiple times. We'll drop it down to the, let's do 4-hour chart. And we can talk about this a little bit more on the 4-hour chart. So you can see pretty clearly here, you got some nice support along the lows. Lots of buyers stepping in each time price dips to buy this thing up and to push the Aussie higher. With that, the question is, can we just do another range-bound push to the top of this range? And more interesting to me, can the Aussie finally get one of these guys going where it breaks and actually holds to go higher? I've mentioned many times, every time I talk about the Aussie dollar, I have a target on this currency pair for 0.8. So I think it is headed back to the previous high that we made back in February of 2021. It is just a matter of, whether or not it can really start to break some structures to do that. Because I think that in order for that to happen, obviously it has to break this level, right? Because if it's going to get up to 0.8, it's got to get above 0.782. Now, in order for that move to happen up to 0.8, I would like to see a break of structure opportunities to look to go long would be for me on the retest of structure. I really like this idea here of buying this pullback if we start to see the break of this range. That's my number one setup if I was to trade Aussie dollar specifically. But right now, I have more of an interest on Aussie yen. So let's look at Aussie yen. I'm not logged into my broker, so you guys won't be able to see my actual trade on here. But I bought Aussie yen in this low. So I bought this support zone, and look at this. I didn't buy it here. I bought it a little bit before there, but you can actually see price came right on down here to this level of support. I bought in, and look where it stopped. We had this trend line drawn yesterday, and it literally tagged that trend line and found support. Just kind of an interesting concept there. But if you watch my style of analysis, I'm more interested in horizontal levels than diagonal, because diagonal are bit more subjective. Some people draw them along the tops, the bottoms of candles, the closes of candles. But for me, although horizontal levels of supply, demand, support, resistance, whatever you want to call them, are they're still subjective to a degree. This general area seems to hold very well for buyers recently. And so me, having that interest in being a buyer of the Aussie yen, I liked that dip. So I bought the dip there on Aussie yen, looking for more upside. It's starting out really well. Like I said, the trade is positive at this point. I will probably trail stops for those of you guys who are in the private group. Of course, if I update the position, you guys will know about it. But right now, I've got the position open, looking to see if we can break through this high. If so, you've got some more short-term levels that we've got to contend with. So for Aussie yen bulls out there, keep an eye on 85. This seems to be a, let's see if I can template supply. And then, of course, the previous high. So I think that in terms of Aussie yen, you've got 85, this range here as a level of resistance. And then, of course, 85.7, the previous swing high that we saw May 10th. So from there, where does Aussie yen go? Now, unlike Aussie dollar, which has this way up here, further away resistance point, if Aussie yen can clear the previous high, it's sort of like open season, right? It has plenty more upside to go in my view. That's why I picked Aussie yen over Aussie dollar. The higher highs and higher lows look a little bit more healthy on this currency cross, right? You've got the highs or the lows coming in higher each time. And then, of course, you've also got higher highs. So really, if I expect this trend to really play out, I would be more than willing to hold this thing if it wants to do a crazy run up even past this high. So I wouldn't sell it just because it gets to the highs. I might trail my stops, which I always do in my trades. But for the most part, I'm looking for opportunities to go long and to stay long, hopefully until we can break through this previous high. So target for this one, of course, starting point, if it can make it up to this point, up to 85 point, what is that, 85.75. If it can make it up to that point, then I'd say that's an awesome first target. But really, if it does continue, again, we talk about this sometimes on the channel, trend following, right? If you're really going to see a trend continue, a lot of times people will say, okay, I'm buying here. And then as soon as it starts to make its move up here, they will sell out right here. Okay. And there's nothing like objectively wrong with that. If you want to take some profit, then of course it's up to your trading style. And I'm not telling you what to do with yours. But for me, I like the idea of holding it past the previous high if you can. If I can stay in the trade, then I absolutely will. Because again, for a trade, for a true trend to continue, we've got higher lows coming in and we expect even higher highs. So if the trend is truly there, we would expect a higher high. So why would I take profit here, right? That's the idea. So again, resistance is resistance, don't get me wrong, but when we're in an uptrend, I'm probably going to bank on the fact that demand should start to exceed supply at a point and even break through it, right? So when I look at these levels, I'm not selling here. I'm saying, okay, that might be a pause point, but if we can break that, then that's huge for buyers, right? So that's what I'm looking at with Aussie Yen. Again, we're doing some Aussie currency crosses today. So around what lot did I do? I think it's a two lot on this trade. But yeah, so with that said, Aussie Yen looking promising here today. We'll see if we can clear this candle. It really does seem just really quick on the 1 hour chart. It seems like we've got a barrier here that we're trying to get past. You've got this spot here on the chart. If that can break, then that looks really good here for the shorter term traders watching this. We'll see if we can get a break and push past this level today during the New York session here. That's really what it would take, I think, for price to make its way up to this point. You got to see something like a nice break, nice solid push higher, and it looks like it's trying. So we will see if it can do it justice and actually make its way through. We'll come back to this one perhaps later, because of course, when I have a trade on, I'm usually going to be selfish and make you guys all look at the trade longer. So I'm sorry about that. We'll take a look at Aussie Swiss. This one is one that I stopped out on, took a loss on Aussie Swiss. So I thought that this level would hold. So we'll talk about this loss here. And again, yeah, so I thought that the 38.2 was going to hold really well here. We're still kind of trying it. I'll give you guys what I took in this trade. So I ended up going long on the pullback to the 38.2. Price sort of looked like it was bottoming out. And then we had this candle, which kind of, it doesn't look like much on the daily chart, but when you look it up at the 4 hour, we'll take a look here. So we had this nice little rounding out here, what it looked like maybe we could be pushing off this level, but then we just sort of never really made the correct push. Ended up stopping me out there, and that's all right, because I ended up taking Aussie Yen because I still liked the Australian dollar as a buy. I just wanted to buy it against the yen instead of the Swiss franc, and it seems to be working out so far. I wouldn't really say that this is like a lost cause for upside. I would just say that I stopped out quickly because I didn't really want to hold this thing if it wanted to keep rolling over. I think that a natural place for price to go, should it decide to roll over, higher time frame, probably a move down to 50%, right? So 50% retracement brings us down to what is that? 0.6917. So if that comes into play, then of course, maybe I'll look at it again. I am still bullish on this currency pair, but my initial attempt, I didn't see the move that I was hoping for. In fact, it actually went profitable for just a moment while I was in it, but then it rolled over, and I was just like, I'm just gonna look for something else that I like better. And that's something that in my style of trading, I'm wrong a lot of the time, right? Because my stop is relatively tight. But it doesn't matter if I'm wrong like frequently. It matters that when I am right, can it really count? You've probably heard the saying over and over again, let losers or let winners run and let losers go. That's like one of my favorite sayings in markets because it's so simple yet so true. This thing, I want to be a buyer, but if I can't get it to work out, I'll just stop out and look for another opportunity and take small risk each time. Fahim says there's sent a lot of messages and haven't had a response yet. Fahim, no worries. We'll get to you as soon as possible. Sometimes we're in and out of the office at weird times. Sometimes, we have people who watch our content, or customers or people who are with us from around the world. So sometimes people are like awake when we're asleep and vice versa. We're asleep when they're awake, or whatever, right? So it's sometimes hard for us to get to messages as fast, as quickly as people would like, but we do our very best. So somebody will be with you, I'm sure, if you just be patient with them. We'll get to you. Don't you worry. All right, so we'll move on from Aussie Swiss. Again, I think that this level doesn't seem too promising yet. Honestly, I wouldn't bank on this rally. I mean, obviously, there's some correlation here between Aussie Swiss and my trade, Aussie Yen. But it's not that I don't think it will go up. It's that I probably wouldn't buy here. I'd probably wait personally if I was to look to get into this one again. I'd look for that 50% retracement. You also have one more thing I wanted to talk about on Aussie Swiss. Frank and I were looking at this yesterday. You had this really clean little counter trend going on here. You can actually kind of draw this as a channel, right? So you have this channel to the downside here. Looks like we're starting to get to the limits of the low here, which is, when you're in a movement like this, you sort of expect the lows of this to potentially act as support. Now, yes, it is a downtrend, but it is in the overall context of a strong uptrend. So when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, yeah, a couple signals here that are interesting is the bottom of this range could line up nicely if it, because sometimes it will hug the bottom, right? It might come down here and just kind of hug the bottom and stay there for a little while. But then if it comes into major support, there could be something like this. And those are the scenarios where I really love to trade something, because you're looking at, okay, got a big term uptrend, pullback with a counter trend here. I'm looking for that counter trend to come into contact with some major support and ideally even break out of this counter trend, right? Because a lot of times you get these counter trends like this, and then the break of it can be a big deal. Something like this can be a huge deal because you get all these sellers who were hopeful that it was going down further, and they all have to bail on their trades. They get stopped out, they're closing their positions, et cetera, right? So it's one of those things, just looking for that opportunity could be a big deal on Aussie Swiss. Watching for this basically to break higher would be one of my favorite setups. Now, this is a bigger term because we're looking at the daily chart. So just keep that in mind. Let's look at something else. We looked at Aussie Yen, Aussie Swiss. Someone said pound Aussie. So we'll just look at it from a technical perspective here and see what we can do. So I haven't looked at this currency pair in a while. So let's look at it 4-hour chart, see what we can pull up. So sort of in an interesting spot right here where we're currently at. If you are bullish on the pound and bearish on the Aussie, for example, we're testing some from a structural perspective. You got some good areas here to talk about. You've got support down here at 1.805, and then you've got support where we currently are at 1.82. So interesting little spot. We haven't looked at pound Aussie in quite a while, but I think that if you're looking at this thing, depending on the time frame, like if you're looking at it from here, not a bad setup here, I think. Like if you're looking at the 1-hour chart here today, so you've got support here at this congestion level, right? Because if we think about this, when price came to this spot last time, it basically just chopped around, thought about it for a while, finally broke higher, and now that retest from just a technical perspective, because this is not a currency pair that I trade, I stick to usually currencies that I am very strongly bullish on versus that I'm very strongly bearish on. That's where I'm trading. And when I'm bullish on both of them, like pound Aussie, I am bullish on both of these currencies. I think the pound has upside and the Aussie has upside. So I wouldn't trade them against each other. Let me give you an example of one that I would trade. Pound Yen, or what I'm in currently, which is Aussie Yen. I'm bullish on these two, right? And I'm bearish on the Yen. So that might give me, right now I actually have a trade open on Aussie Yen to the long side. So it's, and that's based on like fundamental analysis. So Right now, I wouldn't trade pound Aussie, but for the day traders out there looking at that 1 hour chart, pulling back to support, you may have some opportunities to look for something there. Of course, you guys already know it's not financial advice. I'm just sharing my opinions. But just from purely a technical perspective, kind of an interesting spot if you think pound Aussie has more upside. Now, one more thing is we can look at this from a bigger picture. We'll look at the 4 hour chart and draw another fib. We'll draw this fib from the low here all the way to the high here. In this case, what looks more interesting to me is you've got this recent level here. So let's remove that other fib for a moment. We'll take this out. Oops. Yeah. So from a swing trader perspective, if you're looking at more longer term, I guess, like a little bit bigger movements, say you work a full-time job or you just don't have time to day trade. You know, a lot of people prefer to swing trade, myself included, right? Like you guys see me do this analysis. This analysis is like most of the trading stuff that I do. I spend time with you guys. I chat with you. I answer some questions. We go over different charts. And then I usually find my trade setups. And when I take them, I share them inside of our private Discord. So whatever, you know, for me, it's like, it just depends your schedule. Some people have time. Like when I was in college, I was more interested in day trading because I had more time and didn't pay enough attention in school. So when I got out into the real world and I had bills and you know, a life and all this stuff to contend with, swing trading became a lot more ideal. So, you know, I have to spend less time to catch nice moves in the market, and I don't have to sit there and watch the chart all day long. So it's just dependent on who you are, what your preferences are, and what your time actually looks like. So for the swing traders out there, you know, something like this, a pullback to the 38.2 or the 50%, if you're very bullish on this, if you like this technical pullback, like I said, from just a technical perspective, this 50% level looks really nice. You had levels here where we found lots of sellers. Price tried to break out and then finally did. So if price were to make a pullback to that point, you could find some buyers down there. So just my thoughts on pound Aussie. Like there's not really any major resistance that I see anytime soon. I guess you could make the argument if you're looking higher time frame that we could be finding some top side up here. But again, I think that's a little bit stretching it because you've got all sorts of, if you back out long enough, you can find resistance that you want for anything, right? Because, well, most things, maybe not for like gold or something like that, but for the most part, you know, you can find resistance if you want to. But I think that just from like a long-term perspective, maybe a retest of this level at some point. These levels could be in the schedule, but we will see. That's pound Aussie. Anything else that we wanted to look at? We wanted to look at Aussie Cad, another one that I don't actually personally trade, but we will look at this one here. So we've got some demand here at 0.925, the previous low, and it does look like price is making its way down there. And this is kind of what I mean, by the way, guys, by hugging price on a trend on a trend line or channel. You've got price sort of tagging this and then tagging it again. If it keeps tagging it, we could make our way all the way down to that target, or not target, but that level. And from there, maybe there's some support. Maybe there's some opportunities to look to go long and to push higher. But anyways, that's what I see there on Aussie Cad. I'm not going to spend too much time on that just because that's not a currency pair that I really trade very often. But again, another thing to look out for is like we talked about with channels like this. Anytime you have a channel, for the most part, like the default is probably to keep channeling, right? But then when it breaks, it creates a really interesting opportunity for breakouts. Some people really like that style of trading where they wait for that trend to break out and to really get moving the other way, and then they try and join it effectively. Okay, so let's move on to some other currency crosses. We'll see what else we can get into. We will take a look now at the Euro USD quickly. See what we got. Look at this Euro dollar busting out of this high and then coming right back. Let me fix my camera. Sometimes it gets out of focus and then I just have to fix it. There we go. Yeah, so Euro USD at 1.216 here. It found some resistance. We're going to look at the daily chart and then we'll drop it down to the lower time frames. But We talked about this level quite a bit. We talked about this level as a resistance point. Sellers kept holding this zone for a while, finally pushed it lower. But now on the retest, we found a little bit, but then finally buyers really broke this out. And I mentioned that pullbacks to this level could be good technically for a push up to that target that we had on the euro, which is the previous high that we made back early in 2021, back in January. Yeah, January 7th, we tagged up at 1.235, which is a really big move there. So, with this breakout here, pullback, we could probably see it better on the 4 hour. So let's look at this. So we'll just put this in focus. Yeah, so you had some nice uptrend strength here on the euro, right? Each time price dipping, really finding support, and seems to continue. Now look at this beautiful break and retest. Beautiful. There's the impulsive move, right? So you had this big impulsive move here to the upside there on the euro. So this is what we're going to focus on for a moment. Let's talk about this. This is like just understanding the psychology of this move here. Could be good. So there's the impulsive move. You have this big fat green candle, right? It just looks so good for buyers. A lot of times you get people who are chasing here. They're saying, oh, it's going to keep going higher. It's going to keep going higher. And then naturally what happens is a lot of times we see this happen where we get this big green candle and all the people who were long start taking some profit, right? So they start, there's this next phase here where we see people taking profit, right? So here is some of the traders, some of the, whether they're whatever, people who were making money might have said, let me just take some money off the table, start closing out their positions. And you also at the same time have people chasing this thing and thinking it's going to keep going higher. And then what happens? Taking profit also ultimately results in a nice little steep sell-off. And then bam, back down to a quick move back down to support. And this is the big deal because a lot of times this is what we happen to see again and again in markets. You get a big impulsive move, thinking about it as people offload positions, and then you get, the sellers come in, or at least people taking profit causes the market to push back, and then the cycle repeats itself. And this is the context of a strong uptrend, right? Dade says, gold diggers, just be patient, please. We will get to gold. Don't you guys worry. Thank you, Dade, for the comment. That's much needed. People are always saying, let's look at gold. Let's look at gold. We will get there. Trust me. I want to look at it too, because it's fun to watch. But again, this concept here, taking profit, price rolls over, and then back down to where does it go? Well, it goes to, in most cases, a level where there is fresh buyers waiting to get a discount. Right? It's like if you saw a car going off for sale that you really wanted at 10K and, you used to be able to get it at 9K. And so it's at 10K now and you're like, oh man, well, if it comes back to 9K, maybe I'll buy it. Same thing happening here. This is all what markets are. It's just supply and demand and people wanting to buy things and sell things. So when it comes back down, people say, all the people who were like, oh, I would buy it at 9K. They say, oh, now it's my chance. Let me jump in, and bam, pushing price higher there. So that's what we're seeing happening right now on the euro dollar. And then that's just the cycle that repeats itself in a strong uptrend. So that's pretty much it. I hope that made sense to some of the newer traders out there. Understanding these big moves can be a very helpful point. And really for me, it just means, if you see big green candles like this, for the most part, I want to be long. I don't want to be short. I don't want to be fighting this because, again, I make this point sometimes. A lot of times people are trying to sell this because it seems, quote unquote, too high, right? So you get this move for sellers, this move for sellers, and this move for sellers. Looks all right. But what about if you're a buyer? If you're a buyer, you got this move to play with, you got all that to play with, and you got all this to play with, right? So if you're a buyer on these charts, just from a movement perspective, seems like we've got more potential here, right? And that is the whole idea behind trend following, at least my approach to it, is I'm looking to just be a part of the big moves by playing with the direction of the market, not trying to fight the direction of the market. Again, to each their own. There are people out there who do counter trend trade and they do fine with it. And I'm not saying you can't, but it's just my style of trading is to go with the flow, not against it. With euro dollar, again, finding that support here off of the lows here today, does look like we could make a push for the high there, the recent high there of, what is that, 1.225 almost, not quite, but just a little bit shy of it. if that comes into play, of course, I think that the trade was here. Obviously, in hindsight, I know what already happened. But I think that if I was to take a trade on anything like this, I like that pullback spot. Right now, it's just a matter of seeing if it will play out. There might be a repeat action. Maybe we see price break through that. And again, that becomes a discount. But for now, just watching the euro dollar. And I still have that target of 1.234, somewhere in this block here, that previous high that we made. I think we do tag that sometime before the end of the year, especially if the US dollar stays weak like it is right now. Let's look at another dollar pair. We'll take a look at GBP USD and see what's going on with this one. Looking very similar right now. Had a little bit of an impulsive move and then some profit taking, now pulling back and seeing if we can hold this area here. So, Kayla says, do you call out trades as well? Kayla, I do analysis here on the stream. And if I take any trades, I don't do them on camera. I do them inside of our private group, just because with that, I like to answer questions. And usually whenever I take a trade, I get like 15 DMs and I spend some time answering them. So all the trades that are called out by myself or by our other analysts inside of the private group are inside of the Discord. So for example, I will show you what that looks like. We'll pull this up on the screen here. So let's do this. We'll pull this up. So this is the Discord. So this is what it looks like. So our private Discord, this is something that is not free, unfortunately, but it is something that our team offers as a service. And it's what allows us, honestly, to create all this content for free. Behind myself, just what you see on the camera, there's a lot of us putting in a lot of work to make all of this content possible, as well as create a community for traders. And this is what you sort of get inside of the group. So I took a trade earlier this week on Aussie Swiss. I stopped out, and then I shared the full analysis here on my Aussie Yen trade, which is currently up nicely today. But again, any trades that I end up actually taking, I like to write out and put out full, sort of descriptions with. So this is my Aussie Yen trade, like I said, that I took yesterday in the morning. And so far, this one is at like 1R, so it's working out nicely so far. Again, this is available inside of the private Discord. Now, if you are not already a member and you have any interest, there's a link down below in the description and actually a promo code as well, as Dade mentions here. You can actually click that link in the chat or in the description and use the code that you see there in the description, and that will get you a discount on the private group if you have any interest in joining us there. Okay, so check that out. Definitely worth your time. I think that if you try it for a month, you will be very happy with it and probably stick around with us for the long term. And that's just the thing we're trying to go for. We're trying to put out the very best community for traders to join to get the most value for their money. You've got services out there that are like hundreds of dollars per month. We stick around with $45 a month. So check it out if you have any interest and you're looking for a group. So until when is the discount available? Until the foreseeable future, you can get some money knocked off with that code there, Luke. So check it out, grab it when you can. So let's see what we can talk about on the pound dollar. So the pound dollar, we broke out the big news on the pound dollar technical side of things is we found this break above 1.4, which was a big deal. We came back, we retested the area, and then shot higher. We did ultimately make it to that target that we had on stream here for a while, which was 1.42. That was kind of a cool situation to see happen. So this previous high finally got tagged, and then since then we have paused on the upward breakouts. For now, we are sort of just thinking about it, but the setup that I like on the pound dollar, if I was to trade this, would be to see if we can get a break, a nice break, like a clean enough break to maybe even get past the previous high, and then looking for any sort of pullback to try and get long. That's how I would approach this. Of course, like you already know, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money, because a lot of people go around there and they see somebody talk about something in the markets and they're like, oh, well, so-and-so, Elon Musk talked about this. Maybe I'll go do that with my money. Don't be that person. I saw a tweet or an Instagram post or something that was like, if you had bought the hype of all of these things that are like hype these days, Dogecoin, if you bought Tesla, if you bought Bitcoin, if you bought like a bunch of these things that were like super bullish and super safe moon, things like that, like all these like hype names in markets, almost all of them right now are down tremendously. So it's not that, like buying Bitcoin is bad or buying these things is bad. Just don't be the person to buy it when everyone else is already buying it, because it's such a dangerous game to play. So for me, trying to, like, for example, chase this market would have been ugly. We see it again and again. Chasing right here would have been ugly, right? Chasing right here would have been great. But again, it's not that you can't make money chasing. It's that if you do it long enough, you'll get burned, right? So you might get lucky. You might say, we'll take a look at chasing for just an example with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if you were chasing this thing, which a lot of people were for a long time, chasing might have paid off here, might have paid off, probably would be painful here. But if you bought it here, you're like, okay, I'm chasing, it's working. And then in just a matter of a few days, it's down tremendously, right? And these very same people who are like diamond hands, like, oh, we're going to make a bunch of money chasing the top, at the very same time, as soon as price does one of these, guess what all those diamond hands do? They log into their broker and they hit sell. Right? So it's one of those things. If you're around there chasing, it is just a matter of time until you get burned, because people get fearful. They have no idea what they're doing. Think about and really invest the time into understanding what you are doing before you put any of your hard-earned money on the table. All of us work for our money. Don't go wasting it by just doing stupid stuff just because somebody tweeted about it. Okay? That's a quick way to the poorhouse. And the only thing that, a lot of times when you see people pumping stuff, hyping stuff up, it's because they're invested in it. And by you going out and buying it, they're making money, right? So don't just be following the crowd. It's a dangerous, dangerous place to hang out in markets. You don't want to be with the crowd. You most likely want to be patient enough to not, if you want to buy Bitcoin, that's fine, but buy it when people don't want to buy it. Buy it when people aren't just ecstatic about it. A guy in our private group, his name is Joe. He mentioned that, around this time, he was sitting, he has like kids, and he was on like the playground or something, letting them play. And he heard people talking that were like talking to random people just about like, oh yeah, have you heard about this thing, Bitcoin? It keeps going up. And he was like, that is really concerning, because when people who know nothing about markets are just like YOLOing into things, it's a really quick, decision to be like, I don't want to be buying that, because if all the people who don't know stuff are buying it, what are the intelligent people? Are they buying it too? Probably not. Not in all cases. Now, you might get some who, they still think it's undervalued, but the main idea is there's nothing wrong with buying Bitcoin, buying maybe even Dogecoin. Who knows? The market decides, not me. The idea is you just don't want to buy it when it's all hype. Okay. May the charts forgive me. I bought Tesla on somebody's advice. May the charts forgive me. That's funny. Remember not to spam or self-promote. Yes, please. Thank you, Leandro, for the moderation, my friend. Let's look at gold. We'll see what we got here on XAU USD. See what's going on with this guy. Look at this gold chart, you guys. We're finally here. Everybody who's in the chat, if you're a trader of gold, can we get some gold gangs? Hashtag gold gang in the chat. I'm going to type it in here. So we finally made it. Do some hashtag gold gangs in the chat. What's up, Ivan? Good to see you, man. Excited to have you back on Tuesdays, bro. That's going to be fun. People loved Ivan's stream last time. I'm excited to get more of that. Hashtag gold gang. Where are you at? There it is. There it is. Gold gang. Silver gang. Frank, what are you doing? Get back to work over there. What are you doing? You're not supposed to be on here. Ivan says gold diggers. Look at you guys. You guys are just some degenerates in the chat. No lie. I'm kidding. Nothing. Like I said, nothing wrong with trading gold. Just don't be the hype train people. Like that's the danger, right? Oh, Lavert says US 30 gang. Now that's some wild and stuff right there. Knicks gang. I can get behind that. Just kidding. No. Okay. So, cool. Let's talk about gold. I'll give you guys my update here. Price holding this spot seems like really interesting because, you would kind of expect, like, if this was truly resistance, why isn't price dropping? right? So that is a concern. Now, price, of course, can think about it for a while before dropping, but just the fact that we didn't see an immediate massive drop from this price, even though it seems like a pretty big longer term resistance, is a pretty interesting spot. You also have the trend line breakout here, which is a huge deal. And pretty much from a technical view, there's nothing here, in my opinion, stopping price from going higher. So let's talk about this. Don't buy Nick stock. Oh, what's that supposed to mean? So gold here, trend line, downside, right? Lots of lower highs and all that stuff until just recently where, I kind of thought that this trend line would give some resistance, but we didn't see that at all. So let's look at the 4-hour chart here for a moment. We'll change it to 4H and see what is going on. Look at this. All the viewers in the chat, we're up to 600 people in the chat now. As soon as I turned on looking at gold, isn't that funny? I think you guys just love your gold. Do me a favor, if you are enjoying the stream and you want more of this stuff in the future, do me a big favor. It's free to do. Drop a like on the stream. It would be very helpful. It gets us pushed up higher in the YouTube algorithm and allows us to do what we do. Obviously, this stuff is free to you guys, and we make a little bit of money on ad revenue, which helps to keep the lights on and everything with these streams. So if you do enjoy it, make sure to drop a like down below. Thanks, Phil. Phil, your dog picture, by the way, is awesome. That is an awesome dog. Is that your dog? Because that's a cool dog. Like for the gold train. Yes, sir, Ish. So let's talk about this. So for me, like when I'm looking at gold, right, there's nothing here that tells me to sell. Every time price dips, we get these nice rallies. And going back to that thought process, right, here's the bull move. Look at the bear move, right? Bear move is sort of minimum. The bull move, right? You get these big fat movements to the upside. And then the bear moves are these sort of like weak retracements. Now back here, it was different. The sellers were in total control and things were looking really good. So if I was to sell gold, I want to see this sort of thing resume. I want to see sellers come back and be strong. For example, what would cause that? Maybe this level does roll over and you get something like this, where you break underneath structure. Maybe we form a lower low and things are looking appetizing to sellers. But for now, that is just not the case. And I think that there's just more, the path of least resistance is pushing higher on gold. Now we might get pullbacks in the meantime, but again, shallow retracements are a healthy thing for the bulls, right? Shallow retracements push off. Shallow retracements push off, right? That's what gold bulls are ideally looking for. And I think that there are some opportunities for that going forward, as there have been. I don't know. Do you guys agree or disagree? Phil says, cheers, Nick. Yeah, it's one of my dogs. That's an awesome dog, man. Very cool. Congrats on your awesome dog. So on gold, like I said, like the biggest thing that I see here is pullbacks and continuation. We mentioned last time, we'll pull it up just for people who weren't here with us. You guys can go to the website whenever you want. Check out the COT report section right here. So go to a1trading.com. That is our website. And if we go over to gold for a moment, check this out. We'll look at the COT reports once more. You can see that in the most recent data on the non-commercial section, you've got an increase in gold buying for the first time, which is going to be really interesting to watch. Now, if we see this thing continue, for example, let's say that the next report, which comes out on Friday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, let's say that comes out and it's even more bullishness. That would be really good for gold bulls out there. Of course, if it was the opposite, if it was a sell-off, that would not be so good. But and there's no like 100% predicting this, but you can kind of get an idea by looking at COT reports what the overarching big money, like institutional traders, are doing. So during this time, you could have been like, okay, it seems like they're buying. And then when it starts to change, you just say, okay, looks like they're selling and I want to be more on the bearish side. And then now sort of flattening / increasing. So maybe there's more upside for gold, especially with concerns about inflation. It seems like there may be some more upside for gold. The only reason that I'm not super outright bullish on gold is because of the fact that gold is more of a risk-off asset, right? It's something that people buy in times of fear. And so when things are overall pretty good, like they are right now, gold doesn't necessarily do amazing, but again, with inflation, it can rise. So if anything, I would say it has more upside. And for a target, next spot, now that we've really broken that 1850, I would say that it does seem like it's probably headed back to 1950. And if it breaks that, maybe back to highs at 2050. So again, with this breakout of trend line, I would say that you've got more, the path of least resistance seems to be up for now. If things change, of course, we will adapt. I don't know the future. Things can change on me, but the idea is the same. Going with that trend, looking for more upside until it fails, until it stops working. That's just my style of trading and approach to markets, is to go with the trend and to run in there. Big money is scaling in, says Frank. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it from the COT report. I mean, for the first time, you've really got a positive figure here. We had this, and this is what I want to caution people about, is we had this spike, and just because it spikes does not mean it's going to keep spiking. But what you really probably want to see, just like any healthy chart on the COT numbers, is some level of prolonged buying. Right? When we had this, that was like prolonged buying followed by prolonged selling. That shows you a bigger picture trend. And it's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to go with that trend once it starts going and start to ride it. Just because gold is like at 1870, it doesn't bother me. I would still be interested in buying this thing should we see a dip, right? Because I'm a trader, because I'm, short term, I don't care if I didn't get the bottom. I bought some longer term back here, which is kind of cool. I'm still like break even on that trade because I bought some higher back here, but on my investment longer term, I'm doing all right on gold. But as a trader, I don't care if this thing seems high. I care if this thing looks promising in terms of a risk reward perspective. So even if this thing does one of these and I'm not in it, I won't be like, oh, I missed the trade. I'll just be like, okay, well, if it pulls back, I'm looking to keep going with it, right? Big shout out, by the way, to TradingView, who is sponsoring the stream, as Leandro puts it. Very, very much proud to be able to say that we are sponsored officially by TradingView. We've partnered up with them. And I just want to say, if you guys have not already used TradingView, or you are using another site, maybe like MetaTrader or something else, try TradingView out. It is amazing. It is such a good platform. They have so much available for free. Everything that you see here, you guys, is tradingview.com. You can search it up. There's a link down below in the description as well, I believe. But check them out, tradingview.com. Very, very worth getting involved with. You can do so many things. You've got so many different indicators to look at. You can look at financial reports. You can set templates. You can change the time frames and do all your charting over here on the left. And then you've got, of course, like news and you can set alerts and amazing, amazing abilities that honestly MetaTrader just does not have. MetaTrader is all right, but TradingView is, in my opinion, the best. Aaron says TradingView for the win. I agree with you on that for sure. Check them out. Use them if you want. And again, big thank you to TradingView for supporting and sponsoring the content that you guys see here on YouTube. All right, so let's do some more. We'll keep going, do a bit more. I think we have a guest coming on in just a few minutes, so I'm going to do one more and then hop off and get ready for that. It's going to be on the secondary channel, by the way. Check out our guest today by clicking the link down below in the description. It's the second link in the description to go over to our second channel, which is A1 Trading on YouTube. That's where we do a lot of guest interviews, and we do some more market analysis with other people than just myself. So if you want to see other perspectives, other trading styles, check it out in the link down below in the description. We'll do one more. I just want to take a quick look at dollar yen to see what's going on with this one. Pulling back here, a little sell off on the dollar. Little bit of a dip here, and really this one has been one that people are always asking about, but for me is just not super interesting anymore because I'm not super bullish on the dollar. If anything, you've got some demand here, and of course you've got this previous top. So really for me, range bound when looking at a market like this. If I'm not bullish or bearish on, or if I'm bearish on both currencies in a currency pair, or I'm bullish on both of them, I am mostly, if I was to trade it, it would be range bound more than anything. With that said, you guys, thank you so much for being here on my show today, but don't go anywhere. Check us out on the other stream we're about to start up on the secondary channel, link down below in the description. Thank you so much for being with me on my show today, and let's keep it going in the second channel. Hop over there and we'll see you guys on that one. Like I said before, check out the private group if you have not already. There's a code and link down below in the description for that as well. You get access to all of my trades when I take them. You'll see them with full breakdowns, as well as our other two analysts, Frank and Patrick. We also do live coaching webinars with Joe. There's an educational section, all sorts of stuff for you to check out over there. So click that link down below the description and check it out. Thanks, guys. We'll see you back on the next stream here in just a minute.